Hello, and welcome back to the Hidden Health Code, where we explore the intersection of psychology, neuroscience, and health. I'm Tanika, and today we're diving deep into the mind-body connection by exploring a topic that has gained more attention in recent years. That is the gut-brain connection. Have you ever felt butterflies in your stomach before a big event, or maybe a knot in your gut when you're feeling really worried? That's not just in your head, it's your gut-brain axes in action. It affects how you think, feel, and function every single day. For me, this topic hits close to home. Living with Crohn's disease and other chronic conditions, I've learned just how much my gut influences not only my physical health, but also my mental well-being and vice versa. The gut-brain connection is a powerful two-way street, and understanding it has been a game changer in managing my health. In this episode, we'll cover the science behind this connection, what a healthy gut looks like, and what happens when it gets thrown off balance. We'll also uncover how factors like mood, diet, and lifestyle can either strengthen this relationship or disrupt it, and how our growing obsession with healthy eating can have a dark side too. And of course, we'll share some gut-friendly habits and explore what the science says about rebalancing an imbalanced gut. As always, the theories and studies I'll discuss are grounded in research from peer-reviewed journals. So let's get started. So let's start with the basics. What is the gut-brain axis? Imagine it as a constant two-way conversation happening between your brain and your gut, like two friends sending texts back and forth all day. This relationship isn't just about digestion, it's deeply connected to your emotions, immune system, and nearly every bodily process. Physically, the gut and brain are connected by the vagus nerve. This nerve acts as a direct line for messages to zip between your brain and your gut, and it helps regulate essential functions like heart rate, digestion, and inflammation. Chemically, the gut and brain chat through neurotransmitters, tiny messengers like serotonin and dopamine. These substances influence your thoughts, feelings, and bodily functions. Your gut is essentially like a second brain, packed with 100 to 500 million neurons. That's more neurons than your spinal cord. And your gut microbiome is a crucial player in this communication system. Your microbiome is the trillions of bacteria, viruses, and other microbes living in your gut. And these microbes actually produce more neurotransmitters than your brain by feeding on what you eat and metabolizing it into these chemical messengers. For example, about 95% of our serotonin, the happiness hormone, and 50% of your dopamine is produced in your gut, alongside other neurotransmitters like GABA, which calms the nervous system. Gut bacteria also produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which play vital roles in controlling inflammation and regulating blood sugar. And research shows clear connections between the gut and chronic conditions. For example, many people with IBS also experience depression, and those with Parkinson's are prone to digestive issues like constipation. In fact, studies consistently find that the gut microbes of people with chronic diseases are less diverse than those of healthy individuals. So what exactly does a healthy gut look like? Whilst everyone's gut microbiome is unique, shaped by genetics, diet, lifestyle, and other factors, there are some common characteristics of a healthy gut. A healthy balanced gut thrives on diversity. The more varied the microbes, the better equipped your gut is to handle challenges, like fighting off harmful bacteria. This is called colonization resistance, where the good bacteria essentially outcompete the harmful bacteria, preventing them from growing or attaching to the gut lining. They basically act like bouncers at an exclusive club, keeping all the bad guys out. And this isn't the only role of your gut microbes. They're also essential for immune modulation. Around 70% of your immune system resides in your gut. And whilst your immune system is like a highly trained army, it still needs guidance on how to distinguish between harmful invaders and harmless substances. Friendly gut bacteria help to train your immune system to do just that, and certain bacteria even stimulate cells called regulatory T cells, which help prevent your immune response from overreacting and attacking harmless substances or even your own body. In essence, a healthy gut isn't about a one-size-fits-all list of microbes, but rather a diverse, resilient gut that can bounce back to a balanced state after disruptions like stress, illness, food, or even antibiotics. But what happens when this balance is disrupted? We enter a state called dysbiosis. Dysbiosis isn't just about an overgrowth of bad bacteria, it's also about losing the ones that keep everything in harmony. And when your gut diversity drops, harmful bacteria seize the opportunity to multiply and take over. This disrupts immune modulation. So instead of being a well-trained army that can recognize friends from foes, the immune system starts to get confused and can become overactive, not only attacking the harmful bacteria, but sometimes even the body's own cells and tissues, leading to chronic inflammation. And this chronic inflammation doesn't necessarily stop in the gut. Dysbiosis can have an effect on gut permeability, which is often referred to as leaky gut. Normally, the gut lining acts as a filter, allowing nutrients into the bloodstream while keeping harmful substances out. But in dysbiosis, harmful bacteria release inflammatory compounds that damage this lining. When the lining gets damaged, it becomes like a fence with holes, allowing toxins, bacteria, and undigested food particles to leak into your bloodstream. This leak sparks inflammation throughout your body, affecting organs like your brain, liver, and heart, and trigger or worsen a wide range of chronic conditions like autoimmune diseases, depression, diabetes, and even Alzheimer's. Research from institutions like the Yale School of Medicine have also linked leaky gut to symptoms like brain fog, fatigue, and other cognitive issues. So, a disrupted microbiome isn't just about a stomachache or a passing digestive issue. It's a cascade of imbalances that can affect nearly every system in the body, from immune function to mental health. So, how can you tell if your gut is out of balance? It's not always obvious, but there are some telltale signs. Fatigue, digestive issues, skin conditions like acne or eczema, food cravings, weight changes, or even shifts in your mood like anxiety and depression can all point to an imbalanced gut. Why? Because your gut plays a big role in nutrient absorption, blood sugar regulation, and neurotransmitter production. So if it's out of balance, it can affect you in lots of different ways. If you suspect an imbalance, one way to dig deeper is by tracking your symptoms. A food and symptom diary might reveal triggers, like certain meals causing bloating or fatigue. I found this to be quite tedious but necessary because the only alternative is a food sensitivity test. I would caution against these because they often deliver false positives for foods you eat frequently rather than foods you're actually sensitive to. So, if you suspect a particular food is causing issues, consider eliminating it temporarily and reintroducing it to see how your body reacts. There are some tests I'd recommend though. Simple blood tests for vitamin levels like B12, iron, and vitamin D can flag if your gut isn't absorbing nutrients well. And if symptoms persist, doctors can check for gut inflammation markers like fecal calprotectin. Stool and microbiome tests are also available, but interpreting the results is tricky since there's no universal benchmark for what a healthy microbiome looks like yet. So we know what happens when your gut falls out of balance, but what causes that disruption in the first place? A lot of factors can throw your gut off track. Stress, emotions, diet, antibiotics, and even your social life all play a role. Stress, for example, doesn't just stay in your head. It travels straight to your gut through the vagus nerve, which is the communication highway that helps regulate key functions like heart rate, digestion, and inflammation. When you're stressed, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in and hits pause on your body's non-essential functions like digestion, so your body can focus all its energy on survival. That's why you might feel butterflies, nausea, or an upset stomach before a big presentation or a stressful event. But when stress becomes chronic, it's like that pause button gets stuck. Over time, this reduces your gut's bacterial diversity, raises inflammation, and weakens the immune system, creating the perfect storm for chronic health issues. Research has even found that people with Crohn's disease, IBS, and chronic pain often have higher stress markers and reduced vagus nerve function compared to healthy individuals. The good news is that stimulating the vagus nerve through practices like deep breathing, meditation, or even medical devices has been shown to improve lots of chronic conditions like IBD, psychiatric disorders, and more. It's like hitting refresh for the communication between your gut and brain. And this gut stress relationship isn't one way. Your gut can also affect how stressed you feel. A French study found that a disrupted microbiome actually heightens your body's stress response, making small challenges feel like overwhelming crises. I experienced this not so long ago when I was rushing to catch a train during a Crohn's flare up. It seemed so minor, but I noticed how much harder it felt to not get stressed out, and it felt like the reaction was so out of proportion to the stressor. But my resilience was lower because my gut was already disrupted. In another study, researchers were even able to predict stress levels just by analyzing participants' gut bacteria. And it's not just stress. Other emotions like anger and sadness can also throw off your gut's balance. Studies show that people with anxiety or depression often have lower gut diversity, reduced vagus nerve function, and higher levels of pro-inflammatory bacteria. For example, some bacteria, like bifidobacterium, help produce neurotransmitters that calm fear, anxiety, and feelings of helplessness. So, when levels of these bacteria drop, anxiety and depression can spike. In fact, one study discovered that people with depression had gut bacteria producing toxins that were harmful to the brain, potentially worsening symptoms. They even found that when gut bacteria from people with depression were transplanted into mice, the mice then started showing depressive behaviors too. And a systematic review in BMC psychiatry found that gut microbiota transplants in humans led to improvements in depression and anxiety symptoms. This shows how deeply the gut can influence mental health too, not just the other way around. Now, here's something surprising. Your gut benefits from having a social life. Just as we need supportive communities, so does your microbiome. But when loneliness or social isolation creeps in, it doesn't just hurt your mood, but your gut too. This is because when you're isolated, stress levels rise, which triggers inflammation and alters your gut's environment. Those who are lonely also tend to have poorer eating habits, which further impacts gut health. In fact, a Harvard study found that the microbiomes of socially isolated people mirrored the microbiomes of those with chronic illnesses. Less diversity, more inflammation, and fewer beneficial bacteria. So loneliness affects your gut in ways similar to serious disease. And this connection goes both ways. Your gut doesn't just react to social interactions, it can shape them. Certain bacteria produce neurotransmitters like GABA, which calm your nervous system. A drop in these bacteria, which can happen with loneliness and isolation, has been linked to increased social anxiety. So your gut health can actually influence how confident or anxious you feel around others. On the flip side, when we interact with others, especially face to face, we share microbes through things like handshakes or hugs. This microbe sharing can boost the diversity of your gut bacteria, which in turn supports your health. I've personally noticed this effect of social connection too. When I spend time with friends or connect with others, my gut symptoms often ease. And studies confirm this. People with stronger social bonds tend to have more resilient microbiomes, both through improvements in mood and stress, and also the increased microbe sharing. The good news about this connection between the emotions and the gut is that addressing your mood can directly improve your gut health. King's College London looked at data from over 1,700 participants with Crohn's or colitis, finding that interventions like mindfulness and stress management not only reduce psychological symptoms, but also decreased inflammation markers in the gut, even more so than exercise. This suggests that improving mental health doesn't just make you feel better, it can help heal your gut. And for those with functional gut disorders, which is basically when there's no clear physical cause for gut issues, multiple studies have found that psychologically based treatments outperform standard medical treatment. One interesting example is gut directed hypnotherapy, which uses hypnosis and visualization to reprogram gut brain communication. It's been shown to be one of the most effective treatments for IBS and other functional gut disorders, with symptom improvement in up to 76% of patients. And even your mind's expectations can heal your gut. Research on gut related conditions have shown that patients with issues like IBS who took placebo pills still experience significant symptom relief. This emphasizes how deeply intertwined the mind and gut truly are, and that we can't ignore the role of stress and emotions when treating the gut. So, what steps can you take to support this gut brain relationship? You can start incorporating things like deep breathing, mindfulness, spending time with loved ones, or joining a supportive community. These practices not only help to improve your mood or mental state, but also reduce inflammation and restore balance in the gut. Diet also plays a big role, which is no surprise given our food is digested in the same location that our mood regulating neurotransmitters like serotonin are produced. So, diet is what we'll get into next. Aside from your psychological state, your diet is one of the most direct factors that shapes your microbiome. This is because the different foods you eat become the fuel for different gut microbes. Some of these microbes thrive on high fiber, nutrient rich whole foods, whilst others, let's call them the troublemakers, feast on refined sugar and ultra processed foods. And the kind of bacteria you feed grows stronger and more dominant over time, creating a feedback loop that can either support your health or disrupt it. In fact, the American Gut Project, one of the largest studies on the human microbiome, found that people who ate a diverse range of whole plant-based foods had healthier, more balanced microbiomes. In contrast, diets high in ultra-processed foods, packed with refined sugar, emulsifiers, and artificial additives, promoted harmful bacteria strains, aka the troublemakers. Take emulsifiers, for instance. They damage your gut's protective mucus layer and increase gut permeability, otherwise known as leaky gut. As we talked about earlier, this allows toxins and bacteria to escape into the bloodstream, triggering inflammation, which has been linked to everything from autoimmune diseases to mood disorders to cognitive decline. And refined sugar doesn't just fuel the bad bacteria, it also worsens your body's insulin regulation, promotes inflammation, and increases oxidative stress. To give you an idea of how significant this impact is, research published in the British Medical Journal and studies by the World Health Organization have found that diets high in refined sugar and ultra-processed foods can increase your risk of depression by up to 33%, cardiovascular disease by 62%, autoimmune disease by 35%, and even double your risk of dementia. So, if ultra processed foods and sugar are so bad for us, why do we crave them? Turns out it's not just about willpower. Your gut bacteria might be pulling the strings. Both the good and bad bacteria in your gut have an instinct to survive, and studies have found that certain bacteria actually become manipulative and influence your brain to make sure you keep feeding them. They do this by sending chemical signals through the vagus nerve, nudging you to crave foods they thrive on, like sugary snacks or greasy fries. But their tricks don't stop there. These troublemakers can alter your taste receptors, making sweet or fatty foods taste even better, while making healthier options taste worse and seem less appealing. They can also disrupt your hunger hormones, like leptin, so you feel hungry even when you're full. And they can mess with your mood, triggering irritability or anxiety until you give in to their demands. Essentially, they're pulling the strings to ensure they survive and grow stronger while your health declines. Beyond the gut, sugar and ultra processed foods also hijack your brain's reward system in a similar way to drugs like cocaine. These foods flood your brain with dopamine and create an instant high. If you want to find out more, the Yale Food Addiction Scale identifies specific foods with these addictive properties. Think chocolate bars, chips, and ice cream. In fact, studies have found that sugar can be even more addictive than cocaine, creating withdrawal symptoms when you cut it out. And just like drugs, the more you consume, the more you need to get the same dopamine hit, which makes these harmful cravings stronger, both from your brain and from the troublemakers in your gut. So the next time you're reaching for a sugary snack, it's worth asking, are you feeding yourself or are you feeding the troublemakers? So what does a microbiome-friendly diet look like? Think of every meal as a vote for the bacteria you want to thrive in your gut. Every bite influences your microbiome's balance, and that balance directly impacts your health, mood, and even brain function. First, let's talk about what to leave off your plate, the foods that fuel the troublemakers. These are refined sugars, ultra-processed foods, and artificial additives. Refined sugar is basically sugar that's been stripped of all its nutrients during processing, and you might not even think you have much of it. But it's not just in the obvious suspects like sweets and fizzy drinks. It also sneaks into supposedly healthy options like cereals, granola bars, and sauces. In fact, according to Public Health England, sugar intake in the UK is nearly 3 times the recommended limit. And to be clear, we're talking about refined sugar here, not natural sugars from fruit and veg. These natural sugars are wrapped in fiber, which slows absorption, avoids sugar spikes, and supports gut bacteria. As for ultra-processed foods, you can spot these by checking the ingredients list. If you see unrecognizable words or chemicals, or additives like preservatives, colorings, and flavorings, it's ultra-processed. They also tend to have higher levels of refined sugars, salt, and unhealthy fats. It can be things you don't expect too, like ultra-processed versions of fruit-flavored yogurts, juices, pastas, nut butters, and so on. Once you've cleared some space on your plate by cutting back on these foods, it's time to add the good stuff. There are 4 components of a microbiome-friendly diet that show up again and again in research on diets linked to better mental and physical health, like psychobiotic, Mediterranean, and longevity diets. These components are fiber, probiotics, polyphenols, and omega-3 fats. Let's start with fiber. Fiber isn't just good for digestion and keeping things moving, it's the main source of fuel for your gut bacteria. They break it down into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which help maintain your gut lining, reduce inflammation, and even support neurotransmitter production. In fact, research shows that for every extra 5 grams of fiber you eat daily, your risk of depression drops by 5%. Plus, fiber-rich diets are linked to lower risks of heart disease, diabetes, and certain cancers. Think whole grains, legumes, fruits, and veggies. The more variety, the better. Prebiotic fibers, found in foods like onions, garlic, asparagus, and artichokes, are particularly special. They're a type of fiber we can't digest ourselves, but that our beneficial gut bacteria love, which helps them to thrive. Then there's probiotics, the beneficial bacteria themselves. You can find them in fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, and live yogurt. Eating these are like sending reinforcements of good bacteria to your gut microbiome army. And a 2019 study of over 25,000 adults in South Korea found that those who ate more fermented foods had lower depression scores. Scientists have also linked fermented foods to reduced symptoms of social anxiety in over 700 individuals who are prone to it, and lower levels of systemic inflammation and improved immune response compared to those who don't consume these foods regularly. But what about probiotic supplements? While they can help in some cases, they're not one size fits all. A study by the University of Oxford showed that whilst people with diets high in natural sources of probiotics had greater gut diversity, this wasn't the case with people taking probiotics in supplement form. Also, many supplements often don't survive stomach acid, so they never even reach the gut. And excessive use or the wrong strains can even cause side effects like brain fog. Other beneficial things to include in your diet are polyphenols and omega-3 fats. Polyphenols are natural plant compounds that protect against inflammation and oxidative stress while feeding your good gut bacteria. You'll find them in brightly coloured or bitter-tasting foods like berries and kale. This is one reason why eating the rainbow is a great gut health strategy. Meanwhile, omega-3 fats are essential fatty acids that your body, especially your brain, eyes, heart, and blood vessels, needs in order to function. However, your body can't make them itself, which means you need to consume omega-3s in your diet instead, which are abundant in foods like fatty fish, flax seeds, and walnuts. They reduce brain inflammation, maintain healthy blood flow, and support the nervous system. Overall, eating a diet rich in these elements has been linked to better health and longer life expectancy. A long-running UK Biobank study of about 500,000 people found that diets rich in whole grains, nuts, fruit, and veg can add an extra 10 years to your life. Even people in their 70s who made sustained changes added 4 to 5 years to their lifespan. So while it's tempting to reach for convenience foods, shifting towards a more nutrient-dense, gut-friendly diet can have a huge impact, not just on your gut, but on your mood, brain, and your overall health. Focusing on improving your diet can feel like a really positive step, especially if you're managing a chronic condition. It feels like self-care, choosing meals to support your health and avoiding foods that might trigger symptoms. But sometimes this well-intentioned focus can go too far. For me, it started as a way to manage my Crohn's disease, but eventually turned into an overwhelming and unhealthy obsession. At first, it seemed responsible, planning meals carefully and avoiding foods that might trigger a flare. Over time, though, that responsibility turned into rigidity, anxiety, and isolation. And this isn't uncommon. Research shows that 13 to 55% of people with gastrointestinal disorders experience significant food-related anxieties. And these fears increase the risk of developing avoidant or restrictive eating disorders. As someone with Crohn's disease, the stakes of eating the wrong thing feel incredibly high. A flare-up isn't just inconvenient, it's painful, exhausting, and can take weeks, if not months, to recover from. That fear led me to obsess over every meal and ingredient, and it felt rational given the potential consequences of eating a trigger food. I couldn't relax unless I prepared the food myself. Grocery shopping had to be done by me or my dad. I stopped eating out because I couldn't trust restaurants to meet my strict criteria. And it didn't stop there. I found myself projecting this control onto others. I'd feel uneasy when my partner or family didn't follow the same rules, as if their choices somehow reflected a lack of care or understanding about health. This kind of thinking can strain relationships and leave you feeling more isolated in your pursuit of dietary perfection. What I was dealing with went beyond healthy eating. It's called orthorexia, an eating disorder centered on an obsession with eating right. It's not just about the foods you eat or avoid, it's about the anxiety, fear, and rigidity around them. Eating disorders like orthorexia also interact with the gut-brain connection. Anxiety about food sends stress signals to your brain, which then affect your gut, amplifying symptoms like bloating or pain. I can't count the number of times I panicked over the idea of eating something wrong, which made my symptoms worse anyway. And that just feels like proof that you need more control, so the cycle continues. And this isn't limited to just those with gastrointestinal conditions. A study in eating behaviors found that orthorexia is also prevalent among those following restrictive diets like veganism or paleo, not because of the diets themselves, but the psychological pressure to eat right. Breaking free from this mindset has been one of the hardest things I've done, and I'm still working on. It required letting go of the illusion that I could control every outcome through food and learning to trust, not just my choices, but my body's ability to handle imperfection. Even aside from eating disorders, dietary changes can take a toll, especially when they feel restrictive. What helped me most was reframing my approach. Instead of focusing on all the things I had to cut out, I began to think about all the nourishing foods I can add in. This shift helped me move away from feeling down about what I couldn't eat. To deal with the obsessive side of things, I reminded myself that healthy eating shouldn't come at the cost of peace of mind or relationships. Stressing about a perfect diet can harm your gut just as much, if not more, than a dietary mistake. As we've learned, that stress triggers gut inflammation, disrupting digestion, and can counteract all those careful food choices. Sometimes the best thing for your health is loosening the reins and remembering that food is just one piece of the puzzle, not the whole picture. So if you're planning to make a shift towards a healthier diet, remember that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Start by adding small sustainable changes, like including more colorful vegetables, swapping out an unhealthy snack for something nourishing, or focusing on just changing one meal at a time. Research shows that within 24 hours of eating a certain food, you can start to see changes in the microbiome. So even small steps do make a difference. So we've talked about how factors like emotions and diet impact the gut-brain connection and our mental and physical health. But there are a few other gut-friendly habits that can make a big difference. It's well known how much food choices matter for your gut health, but water intake is important too. Drinking enough water helps break down food, allowing your gut to more easily absorb the nutrients it needs and flush out the waste that could otherwise harm the gut lining. Staying hydrated also helps to lubricate and protect the gut walls. So aiming for around 2 to 2.5 liters of water a day is a pretty good target. Then there's getting a good night's sleep. Research shows that the gut microbiome can influence sleep and vice versa. And some studies have shown that better sleep is linked to increased gut bacteria diversity, a key marker of a healthy gut. On the flip side, sleep disruptions can change which bacteria are present in your gut and has been linked to increased inflammation in fat tissue and a poorer blood sugar control. So maintaining good sleep hygiene, for example, avoiding screen time before bed, creating a regular routine, and taking the time to wind down can help improve your sleep quality and gut health. Finally, there's exercise. Movement helps reduce stress and inflammation, which is crucial for maintaining a healthy gut-brain connection. It even helps keep things moving through your digestive system so that waste can get removed effectively. And you don't need to be a gym fanatic. Studies show that even low-intensity workouts like a walk or yoga session can increase microbial diversity and improve gut health. Even vacuuming or gardening counts as physical activity. So we've covered a lot today, how the gut-brain connection impacts everything from immunity to mental health, and how stress, emotions, diet, and social interactions shape our health. We've also looked at what happens when things fall out of balance and how to get back on track. If there's one key takeaway, it's that small, consistent changes can make a big difference. Whether it's improving your sleep, adding more gut-friendly foods, or finding ways to manage stress, there's always something you can do to support this powerful connection. If you want to explore the gut-brain connection further, I highly recommend reading 10% Human by Alana Collin, which goes even deeper into how our gut influences everything from our weight, immunity, and mental health, and chronic diseases. If you found this episode helpful, please feel free to share it with someone who might benefit from it too. And if you enjoyed it, leaving a review would mean the world to me. It helps others find the podcast and lets me know what's connecting with you. You can also reach out at the Hidden Health Code on Instagram. Thanks so much for listening to the Hidden Health Code. Take care and see you next time.